by Senator Cherargei, that we need to know what is the plan of restoration of the old Mombasa Road, how long is it going to take, how have the resources that were allocated prior to the, before this matter came to us, how have they been utilized so far? And when can Nairobians and Kenyans in general expect that we will have the old Mombasa Road back, Mr. Speaker? And this extends all the way to Wayaki Way. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kalwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to compliment Senator Cherargei. This is a very pertinent issue, in fact, of great national importance, given that Nairobi accounts for over 57% of the GDP of this country. Mr. Speaker, the contractor should actually not appear before the committee. He should appear before the House, the Committee of the Whole, because all senators have pertinent issues that are going to rise. And in my case, Mr. Speaker, the contractor must explain how it came to be that they developed such an expensive project without giving motorists who are using it paying an extra fee from Lolongo to be unable to enter the Upper Hill Business District and to enter the CBD. Mr. Speaker, I know you have used it. If you intend to do any business in Upper Hill and you are on the expressway, you have to go to Museum Hill. Similarly, if you want to come into the CPD. So he should tell us if there is a scientific reason. Otherwise, our expectation is that he should create an entry into the CBD and create an entry into the Upper Hill District, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Crystal Asige.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a statement under Standing Order 52-1 regarding road safety during the festive season. With several fatalities during the Christmas break, as people travel to be with their loved ones, road safety across the country should be a key priority for our government. The death toll in Kenya due to motor vehicle crashes up to the 26th of September this year was 3,540, an increase of about 250 crashes from a similar period of last year. Mr. Speaker, you will hear me intentionally refer to these as road crashes and not accidents, because language is very important. We call it an accident, though construction workers are injured in unsafe conditions. We call it an accident, though drivers crash due to negligent driving. And we call them crash accidents, though traffic crashes are fixable, caused by dangerous streets and unsafe drivers. But these are not accidents at all, Mr. Speaker. I use crashes to emphasize that our fatalities are caused by failures in design, construction, and training. Mr. Speaker, it is time that we did something to address road crashes, and road safety policies in Kenya shall assist with this. Vulnerable groups, especially persons with disabilities, senior citizens, and children are in dire need of safer roads in Kenya. Our poorly designed roads, no legal provisions for universal design, lack of proper training and education on road safety, poor regulation and enforcement, and poor public transports only exacerbate the situation. Mr. Speaker, the World Health Rankings put Kenya at 48 deaths out of every 100,000 people on the roads. Western countries have much lower rates than Kenya due to their road safety policies, safe street designs, and safe road awareness in place. Kenya's policies on road design and safety must be completely overhauled in order to protect us, vulnerable users on the road. Our road designs need to start following a safe systems approach, which puts the greatest responsibility on road users who can do the greatest harm, as they have the highest responsibility to reduce road crashes. We need to make streets safe by design, with traffic-calmed pedestrian crossings and compact intersections. These will minimize dangers for pedestrians and cyclists. Such policies, anchored in legislation, Mr. Speaker, would lead to safer roads, as a majority of us use transport, public transport, and walk in all of our counties. As we approach the festive season, Mr. Speaker, I would like to bring attention to all Kenyans to road safety and remind us about how devastating road deaths and injuries that lead to disability can be. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, I wish to reiterate and call on us all to become deliberate champions of universal design and road safety in our country. This may be done by a few ideas. Enact a legislation that ensures new roads incorporate walkways, crossings, cycle tracks, functioning streetlights, Mr. Speaker, bus shelters, trees, greenery, and street furniture, with all of these elements following universal design standards. The introduction of mandatory units in accessibility and universal design across all professional curriculum that are relevant to infrastructural design, development, and delivery. An introduction of curriculum of road safety to be taught in all schools from a young age. Early education and training on road safety will lead to these young students becoming better road users and drivers in future. A complete overhaul in our courses or driving schools. Introducing legislation that mandates motor vehicles to have regular evaluation and guarantee their road worthiness. And refresher courses for these drivers. And at a personal level, Mr. Speaker, ensuring that Kenyans pay attention and follow traffic rules while driving. And finally, Mr. Speaker, encourage us all to not call traffic crashes accidents and instead educate us all on why road crashes is often the more accurate term. I thank you. Mr. Speaker, do I go to my next statement?
Absolutely. Just move to the second statement.
One moment, please. Okay. Mr. Speaker, my next statement is pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport, and Housing with regards to road safety and universal design. In the statement, the committee should state the measure being taken to incorporate a safe systems approach in the design of all new roads constructions and any plans to improve on existing roads. State how the ministry is collecting and disseminating data on road crashes that have been reported, and using this data to inform areas for improvement in the design and the construction of our roads. State what steps have been taken by various road and transport agencies to recruit specialized expertise in the planning and the designing of non-motorized transport and public transport facilities. State the budget allocations set aside for urban roads improvement projects that is dedicated to facilities for walking, cycling, and public transport. State the timelines for the adoption and provide a detailed plan for the implementation of the Street Design Manual for Urban Areas in Kenya, 2022. This is a guideline that was developed by the Ministry of Roads in partnership with the multidisciplinary agencies for the implementation of safe and universally accessible road designs. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mwaruma. Senator Eddie Okech. Senator Kathuri Murungi. Let me call upon the chairperson of the Select Committee on County Public Investment and Special Funds to issue a statement pursuant to Standing Order number 56-1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 56(1)A to make a statement on the activities of the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee for the period commencing 4th October 2022 to date. Mr. Speaker, the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee is established under Standing Order 194 of the Senate Standing Order and is mandated to A, examine the reports and the accounts of the county public investment, and B, to examine the reports, if any, of the Auditor General on the county public investment. The committee is expected to interrogate the public investment and special funds that exist in counties, both in the county executive and county assemblies. The county investment largely comprise water companies, while county funds include car loans and mortgage funds, emergency funds, education funds, enterprise fund, among others. The Office of the Auditor General has been tabling audit reports of more than 80 water companies and 200 funds in the Senate from 2014 to 2015. I think that's when devolution started. Honorable Speaker, this is a new committee that was mandated in the 13th Parliament following a resolution made by the Senate in the 12th Parliament to split the then County Public Accounts and Investment Committee, CPIC, into two committees. That is the CPAC and CPIC. Honorable Speaker, I wish to give a brief synopsis of how the split came into being. In the fulfillment of its mandate, the County Public Accounts and Investment Committee, CPIC, invited governors to appear before it to respond to audit queries raised by the Office of the Auditor General. However, at the start of the second Senate, the county governors were hesitant in appearing before CPIC, asserting that the oversight role with respect to expenditure by the county government is vested upon the county assemblies in accordance with the provisions of Article 185(3) of the Constitution, and further arguing that the governor of a county was not an accounting officer. This matter ended up in court, where a ruling was given in favor of the Senate. Following an appearance by governors before CPIC at the initial stages of the Senate of the 11th Parliament, there was serious backlog in the consideration of audit reports. Upon commencement of examination of the reports, the committee prioritized audit reports of the county executive and county assemblies that had higher fiduciary risk. This meant that there were audit reports of various county investments and funds which were not scrutinized by the committee, yet they had been tabled in the Senate. This is what necessitated the split of the committee so as to ensure the efficient consideration of audit reports that were tabled in the Senate. Honorable Speaker, since its inception, the committee has held a total of 6 sittings within the precincts of Parliament to consider matters within its mandate. At its first sitting, the committee conducted the election of the chairperson and the vice chairperson, whereby Senator Professor Tomo Ojenda, Senior Council MP, was elected the vice chair, and I was elected the chair. The committee therefore proceeded to consider its mandate and legislative business before it, and noted that the Office of the Auditor General had been tabling reports of county investments and funds in the Senate since the financial year 2014-2015 to date, and they had not been considered. The committee has resolved to expedite the consideration of the audited reports and in the process of inviting governors to respond to the numerous audit queries raised by the Auditor General. On the following statements, the Ozaya Mukurweni Water Services Company, which we met them today, Mr. Speaker, the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company was scheduled to appear before us tomorrow. The Narok Water and Sewerage Services Company, which is supposed to appear before us on 6th of December. Kisumu County Car and Mortgage Scheme, and the Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company, who is scheduled to appear before us on the 7th December. However, Mr. Speaker, the county government of Nyeri has since sought a clarification from the committee on the concept of two-tier oversight system, where the county assembly has the first tier oversight role, whereas the Senate has the final tier oversight role in line with the Supreme Court ruling. The committee is presently considering the matter. We have just met the team from Nyeri County. Honorable Speaker, the committee has also considered the matter of regional blocks, economic blocks, and established, and I would wish members to pay keen interest to this, that they form a significant part of county investment and thus fall within its oversight role. The committee observed that county governments are in geographical proximity to each other, have pulled together to establish county regional blocks. The committee further observed that some counties belonged to more than one block, whereas others belonged to none. The committee resolved to consider the matter of blocks and wrote to the Council of Governors on the following. 1, the number of established economic blocks, their membership, their legal status, and the policy framework behind their establishment. 2, the functions of the regional blocks, their sources of funding, and the projects undertaken by each block. 3, the list of projects initiated by the regional economic blocks, their status, and the amount of funds allocated to each project. The Council of Governors have responded and submitted that there are 7 established regional blocks with the full-fledged secretariat. There are insufficient legal and policy framework to promote regional economic integration between county governments. 3, a draft national policy on the establishment of the regional economic blocks by county government was awaiting cabinet approval. 4, some counties such as Tana River, Lamu, Trans Nzoia, Turkana were members of more than one block, while Nairobi County was not a member of any block. Mr. Speaker, further, the committee observed that the regional blocks were receiving funds from member counties and donor partners, but were not being audited by the Office of the Auditor General. Yet there existed no other available alternative for their oversight. This has resulted in the regional economic blocks operating without checks and balances. The committee resolved to write to the respective chief executive officers of regional economic blocks seeking clarification on the following: when each block was formed, the status of approval of the county assembly of the respective counties forming and joining the regional economic blocks. 3, information on their budgets, activities they have undertaken, finances they have received so far from member counties and from donors, a list of development partners engaged by each block, and the amount received from donors since establishment. And then lastly, information on how the blocks have accounted for the funds received. Mr. Speaker, this is a serious matter because these blocks continue to operate without any legal mechanism in place, and they continue receiving money which are not audited by the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, the committee is also scheduled to have a meeting with the regional economic blocks and to conduct familiarization visit to some of these blocks. Honorable Speaker, the committee is slated to conduct its work planning induction retreat in February and aims at engaging the stakeholder. The committee also plans to conduct fact-finding mission to various counties, prioritize given investment that are facing huge fiduciary risks. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I submit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, majority.
Mr. Speaker, that's a very good report presented by the chair, and I appreciate the work that him and his committee have done, but I just have one little comment, that at this time, Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of a term of parliament, when you are doing such reports, I wish to encourage committee chairpersons to not only lay the problem statement, but go further and propose legislative solutions to the problems that they have raised, Mr. Speaker. Because this is a legislative body, there is no other institution that we are looking up to solve many of the challenges. Enacting Council of Governors into an Act of Parliament, CAF, which is County Assembly Forums, the various regional bodies such as the ones that you pointed out to, as part of your report, and this is a thing that I say to the rest of the chairmen as well, let us begin even the process of having it as a legislative proposal, go through the bureaucracies of Parliament, and have it tabled here so that we can conclude on this process. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, that's a very good report. Thank you.
Senator Boni.
Mr. Speaker, the report by the Senator of Vihiga and Chairman of CPIC should be supported. And Mr. Speaker, just by way of encouragement, to get rid of that backlog, you have an opportunity you can do by annual accounts, meaning for each respective entity that you look out, you consider the accounts for 2 successive years. We did it in public accounts in the National Assembly many years ago, and that is how we removed the backlogs that we found there. Point number 2, Mr. Speaker, this Senate should help this committee in declaring that economic blocks, any investment in economic blocks, any investment, and with due respect, Mr. Speaker, you've been a governor, you know where I'm coming from. Any investment in the so-called governor's offices in Nairobi, we should help this committee as Senate to stop it. Because from which budget line do governors get money to invest in offices in Nairobi? They create jobs for their friends and relatives, and with no clear way of accountability, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't have any governor who might be sitting in this house today on mind, but some of the governors, they will not stop at anything to create an opportunity to improve the welfare around themselves. You've been hearing, Mr. Speaker, governors have been talking of some funny caucus, unknown to us, called the governor's first ladies something, and they have been calling for funds to help them to preside over projects and programs, Mr. Speaker. This Senate should be strong and very loud and tell governors that in the Constitution of Kenya and in our statutes, the issue of first ladies and first ladies caucus is unknown. If we don't stop them, the next time you'll hear a caucus of governors' favorite son, favorite daughter, firstborn son, and so on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my next and last comment on this very important issue is that the committee should not wait for reports of the Auditor General. We have obvious things that take place. For example, any investment done outside the required framework, a legal framework. For example, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to this committee pursuing the county government of Kakamega in the 200 million shillings that the former governor invested in Mumias Sugar Company by way of paying farmers. No single farmer was paid, Mr. Speaker. The 200 million shillings vanished in thin air. These are things we want you to go in so that governors can have the fear of the Lord in their hearts and minds for them to respect public funds, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Next order.
Order number 8, the county government's additional allocations, number 2 bill, Senate Bills number 4 of 2022, division.
Senator Mazayo, what is your intervention? What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I'm on a point of order. I wanted to put notice on the notice of motion of adjournment to discuss a definite matter of urgent national importance. Mr. Speaker, I have an urgent matter that I would like to place before the House, and therefore I would require an adjournment to discuss this definite matter of urgent national importance.
Honorable Senator, you'd wish to tell the House exactly what this matter is and what is urgent about it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter where I would like to discuss the GMO.
Senator, just read exactly what you submitted for approval so that we deal with that.
Yes, that pursuant to Standing Order 57, the Senate do adjourn to discuss a definite matter of urgent importance, namely the executive order to authorize the cultivation and importation of banned genetically modified crops and animal feeds.
The Senator is on a point of order. This is a point of order. What we're dealing with is actually a point of order. But Senator Mazayo,
Yes.
what you submitted for approval and what you've just stated.
I don't seem to.
there's some, it's different from what you submitted.
I have some mix-up. If I may correct
Senator Ledama, the House is very much active. So
Yes,
we're bound.
Mr. Speaker, I rise on this point of order pursuant to Standing Order 37 to seek leave of the House to adjourn to discuss a definite matter of national importance, namely the decision by the government to authorize the cultivation and importation of banned genetically modified organisms, that is GMO, foods at an appropriate time this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, pursuant to Order 37.5, Standing Order 37.5, I do confirm that we have met the requisite threshold, and therefore direct that the Senate will stand adjourned at 5:30 p.m. today to discuss the said motion. Honorable Senators, we shall now proceed to vote. The order has already been called out, so I'll proceed. We shall proceed to vote, and I direct that the division bell be rung for 5 minutes. Honorable Senators, I do direct that the bell, the division be rung for another 5 minutes. Sergeant at times kindly call, ring the bell once again. Honorable Senators, I now direct that the doors be locked and the bar be drawn. And Honorable Senators, immediately we are done with this order, we're going to move to the Committee of the Whole. So we'll need you to maintain quorum. So don't move out immediately we're done with this order. We still need the same number going forward. Honorable Senators, I now put the question, which is that the county government's additional allocations, number 2 bill, Senate Bills number 4 of 2022, be read a second time. Honorable Senators, please confirm that you are all logged in. We are going to vote electronically. Honorable Senators, we're now ready for voting. Senators may kindly the IT team. Honorable Senators, kindly confirm that you are now logged in. The IET team, please take time to make sure that all honorable senators are logged in, then we can proceed from there. Just confirm first that we're logged in. On this side, you're logged in? So the problem is on this side. So honorable senators, due to the fact that the system is down on the government side, we shall proceed to vote manually. Therefore, I will need to get the teller for the ayes and the teller for the nays. Kindly, if we can have Senator Hezena, Taylor for the ayes, or Taylor for the nays? Okay. And Chimera, Senator Chimera for the ayes. So Senator Hezena, Taylor for the nays, and Honorable Senator Chimera, Taylor for the ayes. The clerk will now call out the names of senators. When you're called out, each senator shall rise in his or her place and declare assent or dissent to the bill in the following manner. Either I vote yes, or I vote no, or abstain altogether. Clerk, proceed.
Senator Abbas Sheikh Mohammed.
The microphone is not on. Maybe they vote from the dispatch. If
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of my people of Ajia County, I vote yes.
Senator Adan Dulo Fatuma.
I vote yes.
Senator Boy Issa Juma, Kwale County. Senator Cherarke Samson, Nandi County.
It's not functioning. Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the great people of Nandi, I vote yes.
Senator Cheriot Aaron Kipkirui, Kericho County. It's on leader.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Chesang Alan Kiprotich, Trans Nzoia County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Chute Mohammed Said, Marsabit County.
I vote yes.
Senator Ekomwa James Lomenen, Turkana County. Senator Haji Abdul Mohammed, Garissa County. Senator Kajwang Moses Otieno, Homa Bay County.
Homa Bay County votes yes.
Senator Kamau Joseph Githuku, Lamu County.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the great people of Lamu County, I vote yes.
Senator Kathuri Murungi, Meru County. Senator Keroche Tabitha. Senator Keroche Tabitha Karanja, Nakuru County.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the great people of Nakuru County, I vote yes.
Senator Halwale Boni, Kakamega County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Kipkorir William Cheptumo, Baringo County.
On behalf of the great people of Baringo County, Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Lelegwe Steve Tumbesi, Samburu County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Maanzo Daniel Kitonga, Makueni County. Senator Madzayo Stewart Mwachiru, Kilifi County.
I vote yes.
Senator Mandago Jackson Kiplagat, Wasingishu County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Medhu John Muhia, Nyandarua County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Mogeni Eric Okongo, Nyamira County. Senator Mundigi Alexander Munyi, Embu County. Senator Mungatana.
What is your point of order, Senator Boni?
Mr. Speaker, the delegation of Nyamira County is represented. Senator Esther is here. You wait
Senator
a minute.
Boni, Senator Boni,
Yeah.
you ought to know better. You honestly ought to know better. Kindly proceed.
Senator Mungatana Danson Buya, Tana River County. Senator Murango James Kamau, Kirinyaga County. Senator Mudhama Agnes Kavindu, Machakos County. Senator Mwaruma Jones Mwashushe, Taita Taveta County. Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, Tharaka-Nithi County.
On behalf of the Tharaka-Nithi people, I strongly vote yes.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki, Mombasa County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Nderitu John Kinywa, Laikipia County. Senator Ngugi Joe Joseph Nyutu, Murang'a County.
On behalf of the people of Murang'a, I vote yes.
Senator Ojienda Odhiambo Tom, Kisumu County. Senator Oginga Oburu, Siaya County. Senator Okech Eddie Gicheru, Migori County.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the great people of Migori County, I vote yes.
Senator Okoiti Andrew Omtata, Busia County. Senator Olekina Ledama, Narok County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Onyonka Richard Momoina, Kisii County. Senator Osotsi Godfrey Atieno, Vihiga County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Recha Julius Murgo, West Pokot County.
I vote yes on behalf of Pokot people.
Senator Roba Ali Ibrahim, Mandera County.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I vote yes.
Senator Seki Lenku Olekanar, Kajiado County.
Mr. Speaker, I vote yes.
Senator Sifuna Edwin Watenya, Nairobi County.
Mr. Speaker, Nairobi votes yes.
Senator Thangwa Paul Karungo, Kiambu County.
Kiambu is here. I vote yes.
Senator Wakili Hilary Kiprotich Sigei, Bomet County. It's on.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the people of Bomet, I vote yes.
Senator Wamatinga Wahome, Nyeri County. Senator Wambua Enoch Kio, Kitui County.
Honorable Senators, the results are as follows. Ayes 27, noes 0, abstentions 0. So the ayes have it.
The County Government's Additional Allocations Number 2 Bill 2022, a bill for an Act of Parliament to provide for the additional allocations to county governments for the 2022-2023 financial year, the responsibilities of national government and county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes. Second reading.
Honorable Senators, I now direct that the doors be open, be unlocked, and the bar be undrawn. Next order.
Order number 9, Committee of the Whole, the County Government's Additional Allocations Number 2 Bill, Senate Bills Number 4 of 2022.
So we do one. Let's do one. Yes. So, because the system is not working. Okay. Sawa. Peleka basi. Peleka na motara.
Senators, we can start, and we are going into the committee of the whole House, and it is for the county government's additional allocation number 2 bill, Senate Bill number 4 of 2022.
Clauses 3 to 4.
I propose the question that clause 3 to 4 be part of the bill. And I put the question now that clause 3 to 4 be part of the bill. The division will be at the end.
Clause 5.
I propose the question that clause 5 be part of the bill. And I invite the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Senators, we request you access the bill from your iPads. It's not opening? The Secretariat will sort it in a minute, but in the meantime, I request the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget to proceed.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that clause 3 and 4 be part of the bill. And Honorable Chairperson.
Chairperson, we are on clause number 5. We
Honorable
moved away from clause 3 to 4.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that clause 5 be amended as proposed in the order paper. This is to include 2 conditional allocations which had been omitted during the publication of the bill. That is conditional allocation financed by the World Bank credit to finance national agricultural value chain development, and a conditional allocation financed by credit of IDA, World Bank, to finance the Kenya Urban Support Program.
I propose the question that clause 5 be amended as proposed by the chairperson to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget to include the 2 omitted items from the previous bill. And now I put the question that clause number 5 be amended as proposed. The division will be at the end. Okay.
Clause 6.
They will be seconded later. I propose the question that clause 6 be part of the bill, and I request the chairperson to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget to take.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that clause 6 be deleted, and this is following the consultation with the stakeholders. As a committee, it was unanimous that the allocation from Equalization Fund require to be actualized through Equalization Fund Appropriation Act. Thus, the provision should be deleted. And I say again, clause 6 Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that Clause 6 be deleted, and this is following consultation with stakeholders. It was unanimous that the allocation from the Equalization Fund required to be actualized through Equalization Fund Appropriation Act. Thus, the provision should be deleted, and I request Senator Faki to second.
Chair, I second.
I propose the question that Clause 6 be deleted. I also put the question that Clause 6 be deleted. Division at the end.
Clauses 7 to 9.
I propose the question that Clause 7 to 9 be part of the bill. I put the question that Clause 7 to 9 be part of the bill. Division at the end.
The first schedule.
I propose the question that the first schedule be part of the bill, and I request the chairperson to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget to move to the dispatch box.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the first schedule be amended as proposed in the order paper. This is to amend the conditional allocation on the supplement for construction of county headquarters. The allocation are as advised by the National Treasury, and I request Senator Faki to second.
Madam Chair, I second.
Thank you. I propose the question that the first schedule be amended as proposed, and I now put the question that the first schedule be amended as proposed. Division at the end.
The second schedule.
What is your point of order, Senator Boni?
Madam Chair, we're making law. These iPads are not working. Members don't have the hard copy. Could you please direct that the clerk delivers hard copies?
The clerk and the secretariat, can you give members hard copies of this bill? You have one? I think we have a few copies, members. Give one to Senator Boni.
The second schedule.
I propose the question that the second schedule be part of the bill, and I invite the chairperson to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the second schedule be amended as proposed in the order paper, and having amended Clause 5, subsection 2 to include the conditional allocation which had been omitted before during publication. Consequently, the second schedule must be amended to reflect the new allocation. Further, the National Treasury has advised on some conditional allocation which need to be adjusted to fall within the rationalized budget for financial year 2022-2023. And I request Senator Faki to second.
Madam Chair, I second.
Thank you. I propose the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed, and I now put the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed. Division at the end.
The third schedule.
I propose the question that the third schedule be part of the bill, and I invite the chairperson to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget to take the dispatch box.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I beg to move the third schedule be deleted. having deleted clause 6, which provided for allocation from equalization fund, it therefore follows third schedule must be deleted to reflect the change. And I request Senator Faki to second.
Madam Chair, I second.
I propose the question that the third schedule be deleted. I put the question that the third schedule be deleted, division at the end.
Clause 2 and the title.
What's your point of order, Senator?
Correspond with what Senator Aroba is saying. I don't know if we have a completely different document here with what he's telling us.
What document do you have?
The documents I have are completely different from what he's saying.
Can you approach the clerk?
Yes, please.
Now have the correct one. Honorable Senators, the amendments are in the supplementary order paper. So don't look for them in the bill, look for them in the supplementary order paper. I believe Senator Chute is now comfortable. We can proceed.
Clause 2 and the title.
I propose the question that clause 2 and the title be part of the bill. And I now put the question that clause 2 and the title be part of the bill, division at the end.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill, and I invite the chairperson to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget to make proposals.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that clause 1 be amended as proposed in the order paper. And this is short title and commencement, having removed the equalization fund. The citation of the act this act may be cited as County Government Additional Allocation Number 2 Act and shall be deemed to have come into effect from 1st of July in order to facilitate funds flow to the counties. I request Senator Faki to second.
Madam Chair, I second.
I propose the question that clause 1 be amended as proposed, and I put the question that clause 1 be amended as proposed, division at the end. We are now proceeding to divisions. Sergeant at arms, please ring the bell for 2 minutes.
One division.
I'm looking for the questions. Senators, we can resume our seats. Honorable senators, we are beginning this session. We are now doing the division, and we are commencing. There will be one division for the 3 questions. Proceed.
Clauses.
Honorable senators, can you resume your seats, please?
Clauses to be deleted.
I put the question that clause 6 and the 3rd schedule be deleted.
Clauses with amendments.
I put the question that clause 5, the 1st schedule, the 2nd schedule, and clause 1 be amended as proposed.
All clauses.
I put the question that clause 3, clause 4, clause 5 is amended, clause 7, clause 8, and clause 9. The 1st schedule is amended, the 2nd schedule is amended, clause 2, the title, and clause 1 is amended, be part of the bill. Okay. We are now going into division. Senators, are your systems working? Are you logged in? Okay, we can proceed to division. Do we do it more? We are going. Okay, so give it 2 minutes. Someone is coming to fix the system. If it fails, we will ring the bell for 2 minutes.
Innocent, is your side working?
Mine is working.
Yeah,
Oh, it's working. Is your system working? Can you confirm? Okay.
Before COVID. So could we just see? We'll have to ring the bell so we can get more.
Sergeant at Arms, please ring the bell once again for 2 minutes. Could we have two tellers for nays and ayes? Zena. So the system is now working. I think we could proceed on and try and use technology.
It's on vote now.
It's on vote now.
Wait, hold on a second.
Hold on for a second, but it's on vote now. We'll try to make use of the technology.
Hold on yet. This needs to display.
Let it display. It's going on. Just 1 second. It's being reset. Should take half a minute. Please confirm your system, log in. Is it working?
No, it's not displaying. We are not yet voting.
You are not voting yet, just log in. Log in.
Are you logged in?
Confirm whether you are logged in using your PIN. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. We are doing one division for the 3 questions, and I believe you heard the questions. You can proceed to vote. You can see the countdown.
Come on. How is it going to interrupt?
Don't press twice. Press.
Why is it 22, 23?
24.
Perfect. Perfect.
That's the end of that division and the vote. We want to recheck whether there's anyone who has failed to vote in the House in just 1 second, few seconds. Honorable Senators, I want to give the results of the division. The ayes, 24 votes. The nays, 0 votes. I now invite the mover to come and report. The mover, please come and report progress.
Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do the report to the Senate, its consideration of County Government Additional Allocation Bill number 2, which is Senate Bill number 4 of 2022, and its approval thereof with amendments. Thank you. I request Honorable Senator Faki to second.
Madam Chair, I second.
I put the question that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the county government's additional allocations number 2 bill, Senate Bills number 4 of 2022, and its approval thereof with amendments. As many as are of that opinion say aye. As many as are of contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Honorable members, Mr. Speaker, where's the one for? Oh, thank God they didn't meet tomorrow. It was this one.
Honorable members, order. I now want to call upon the chairperson to report to the House. Senator Veronica Maina.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole has considered the County Government's Additional Allocation Number 2 Bill, Senate Bills Number 4 of 2022, and its approval thereof with amendments.
I now call upon the mover as well to report to the House.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. And I request Honorable Senator Faki to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Now, honorable members, I now propose adoption of the report that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Honorable members, I now put the question that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. And as many as those of similar opinion say aye. The ayes have it. And as many as those of a contrary opinion say nay, the ayes have it. Now, I call upon the mover of the motion.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the County Government Additional Allocation Bill Number 2, which is Senate Bill Number 4 of 2022, be now read a third time. And I like to request Honorable Senator Faki to second.
Honorable Speaker, I wish to second the county government's additional revenue allocation Bill 2022, Bill number 2 of 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To be ready for the third time, sorry.
Honorable members, I now propose the question for the third reading. I propose the question that the County Government Additional Allocations Bill Number 4, Senate Bill Number 4, be now read a third time. And honorable members, I put the question that the County Government Additional Allocations Number 2 Bill, Senate Bills Number 4 of 2022, be now read a third time. Honorable members, I direct that the bell be rung for 1 minute for division.
Members, you can now prepare to start voting. The system is on and active. You can start voting. The system is counting. You can go ahead and do the voting. The Honorable Senator from Nakuru, Senator Karanja, kindly come approach the clerk to vote. Honorable Senator Madzayo, could you please also approach there to sign and record? Senator Lomenen as well, his own record. Could you please approach the clerk's desk?
Honorable members, now we have got the results of the vote. The ayes, 27. Those who voted electronically, 24. Those who are in the system, manually, 3, making 27. The nays, 0. Abstain, 0. The ayes have it at 27.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the additional allocations to county governments for 2022-2023 financial year, the responsibilities of national government and county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes.
Next order, please.
Order number 10, motion, integrating climate education into national education curriculum.
The Honorable Senator Eddie Okech, you may read your statement as we wait for Senator Zhuang to move his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the humble considerations. I think it has been a very long day today with a number of committee meetings. And I'm glad that we were able to achieve passing of the motion that I just ended on the county revenue allocation, additional allocation bill. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to standing order number 53, 1, to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations on the state of insecurity and wanton killings in Migori County, particularly in Awendo constituency and Migori town. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the circumstances surrounding the increase in insecurity and killings of residents in violent attacks in Migori County, particularly in Awendo constituency and Migori town, and provide disaggregated data on reported cases of crime in the two areas from January 2022 to date, detailing the number of people killed and time of the crimes and the status of investigations into the prospective cases. 2, explain the inability by the police to contain the menace, considering, Mr. Speaker, the reports that the police are protecting the criminals, and state the measures in place to hold to account officers who will be found culpable of providing such protections, Mr. Speaker. 3, Mr. Speaker, state the steps the Ministry of Interior and National Administration has taken, if any, to stop the killings, strengthen security in the areas, and bring to book the perpetrators of the heinous acts in order to protect the residents from the senseless killings. 4th, Mr. Speaker, outline the measures, if any, that the ministry has put in place to ensure that families that have lost their kin from the brutal killings, Mr. Speaker, including breadwinners, are all fully compensated for the loss of loved ones. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, invite the CS for Interior and National Administration and the Inspector General of the National Police Service to a meeting with all senators to respond to this and all other security-related issues in view of the rising insecurity in the country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, please.
Order number 11, motion, state of food security in Kenya.
The Honorable Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, kindly move the motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that, aware that Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, stipulates the rights of every person to be free from hunger, to have adequate food for acceptable quality, and to clean and safe water in adequate quantities. Further, aware that there is a prevailing food shortage in Kenya, which is as a result of, among other factors, lack of and inadequate rainfall over the last 2 years, the consistent decline in the number of farmers and lands committed to farming, and the Russia-Ukraine war that has led to an increased cost of fertilizer and fuel products, which are critical farm inputs, subjecting 4.1 million Kenyans in the arid and semi-arid lands also to an acute food insecure situation, and about 943, 500 children under 5 years and 134, 270 pregnant and lactating mothers to acute malnutrition, according to the Kenya Food Security Steering Group report. Noting that about 1.5 deaths of livestock have so far been reported in the arid and semi-arid lands, ASOS, and that the situation is expected to be dire in light of experts' projection that we may miss the normal cycle of rain expected in October, November, and December 2022, and that could be the worst drought ever we have experienced in quite a number of years, 40 years. Noting that 1.5 million deaths of livestock have so far been reported in the arid and semi-arid areas, and that the situation could dire, I think, Honorable Speaker, I've repeated, concerned that the country is recording instances of conflicts between crop farmers and pastoralists over the scarce source of water, and the factor which is resulting in the destruction of crops and deaths of livestock, further exacerbating the food crisis, and that the challenge of food shortage is now spreading to areas previously presumed to be rain-rich, such as Mount Kenya, whose residents are now relying on government emergency food supplies. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the Minister of Agriculture and Livestock Development to develop targeted policy programs aimed at addressing the food insecurity in the country, including the following. Coordinate with the county government to establish strategic grain reserves across the country within drought-stricken areas receiving priority. 2, develop livestock feeding programs in ASO regions, providing water and feeds to the livestock farmers. 3, coordinate with the National Drought Management Authority to do quarterly reports to the Senate on the drought situation in the country. 4, subsidize agricultural production. 5, establish apertures in ASO counties and further recommends that the National Treasury and Economic Planning increases funding to the National Drought Disaster Fund. The Senate resolved on as follows. The Senate resolved the debate on the motion of respondent majority. I think that this is the wrong one, this is Honorable Speaker. I think I'm done with that one. So, Honorable Speaker, considering that we have gone through a very severe drought for the last few months, I think it's a tradition in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, that whenever we lack rains for the few months or for a few years, we really have a lot of problems as a country. So it is important, Honorable Speaker, for this House to do some serious mitigation to make sure that we have some permanent solutions to some of these problems that we are really suffering from year to year. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the kind of problems that we are facing, especially the drought, the semi-arid areas, people have lost livestock, people have died, children are suffering, even lactating mothers are dying. So, Honorable Speaker, it is important for us as a House to put strong measures on board so that we don't have to have these things in the future. So I request Honorable Seki to support the motion.
And Senator Seki, you may use the dispatch. Seems technology is failing you from your end.
I'm requesting Honorable Seki to second the motion.
Honorable Speaker, I second the motion.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that aware Article 43 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 stipulates the rights of every person to be free from hunger, to have adequate food of acceptable quality, and to clean and save water in adequate quantities. Further aware that there is a prevailing food shortage in Kenya, which is as a result of, among other factors, lack of an inadequate rainfall over the last 2 years, the consistent decline in the number of farmers and lands committed to farming, and the Russian-Ukraine war that has led to an increased cost of fertilizer and fuel products, which are critical farm inputs, subjecting over 4.1 million Kenyans in the arid and semi-arid land areas to acute food insecure situation, and about 942,500 children under 5 years and 134,270 pregnant and lactating mothers to acute malnutrition, according to the Kenya Food Security Steering Group, KFSSG report, noting that about 1.5 million deaths of livestock have so far been reported in the arid and semi-arid lands, and that the situation is expected to be dire in light of expert projections that we may miss the normal cycle of rain expected in October, November, and December 2022, and that this could be the worst drought we have experienced in 40 years. Concern that the country is recording incidences of conflict between crop farmers and pastoralists over the scarce resource of water and pasture, which results in the destruction of crops and deaths of livestock, further exacerbating the food crisis, and that the challenge of food shortage is now spreading to areas previously presumed to be rain-rich, such as Mount Kenya, whose residents are now relying on government emergency food supplies. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development to develop targeted policy programs aimed at addressing the food insecurity in the country, including the following. 1, coordinate with county governments to establish strategic grain reserves across the country, with drought-stricken areas receiving priority. 2, develop livestock feeding programs in ASAL regions, providing water and feeds to the livestock farmers. 3, coordinating with the National Drought Management Authority to do quarterly reports to the Senate on the drought situation in the country. 4, subsidize agricultural production. And 5, establish abattoirs in ASAL counties, and further recommends that the National Treasury and Economic Planning increases funding to the National Drought Disaster Fund. Honorable Senators, I call upon you to make contributions to the motion. Senator Karungo Thangwa Paul, Kiambu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion. And Mr. Speaker, if you remember very well, in 2020, the country was invaded by locusts. And it is said that those insects consumed food that 35,000 people could consume in a day. Mr. Speaker, if we trace back the reason why our people are hungry, that is one of the factors that contributed to what we are going through today. Mr. Speaker, I believe the current government is putting measures to curb hunger. And I know they have embarked on a zero hunger agenda by, 1, providing relief food to the areas that are affected. And we have seen the government distributing food, although not enough, but it has distributed food to some areas in this country. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, immediately the cabinet was sworn in, they approved a cabinet paper on GMO. Mr. Speaker, contrary to what so many people think, GMO has been used in so many countries as one way of mitigating hunger, Mr. Speaker, because it reduces the cost of production. By reducing the cost of production, Mr. Speaker, farmers are able to farm examples of the crops like corn, soybean, and of course rice, Mr. Speaker. So when the government approved the use of GMO in this country, it opened the doors for us to discuss this issue and as a House come up with laws or regulations so that we can control the use of this genetically modified food. So, Mr. Speaker, I do believe that the government is working very hard to make sure nobody dies because of hunger. And I would want to ask this House to support the government. Because, Mr. Speaker, we cannot say that what is being done in 28, 29 countries is wrong. Other countries are using genetically modified food, Mr. Speaker, just to fight hunger. This kind of food, Mr. Speaker, and I know that is the motion that will be discussed later on, Mr. Speaker, they reduce the usage of pesticides, Mr. Speaker. And when you reduce the use of pesticides, you reduce the cost of production. When you reduce the cost of production, you increase production, hence getting the farmer something to his pocket. So, Mr. Speaker, I support and I urge the government to add on to those measures that they have put in place and put more to make sure that nobody dies from hunger. Mr. Speaker, we also understand agriculture is devolved. And county governments are mandated to develop, to grow, and to support sustainable agriculture. Mr. Speaker, I urge the Committee on Agriculture to invite the county executives for them to come before this House to explain what measures they are putting to make sure the people or our people do not die from hunger, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we understand so many county governments. The only thing they do is to give fertilizer, Mr. Speaker. And why do they do that? It's because some of them, Mr. Speaker, they have made it a kind of money-making venture, Mr. Speaker. So they only give fertilizer to the farmers. There are no extension officers who go direct to the farmer to see whether they are utilizing the fertilizer well, whether they are growing the crops the way they're supposed to do. And so without those extension officers, Mr. Speaker, we are unable, or the county government is unable to follow up on what the farmer is doing, to know exactly whether the inputs that they have given to the farmers they are put in place or they're used well. So, Mr. Speaker, I urge this must be a collaboration between the national government and the county government, and more so the county government that is mandated that agriculture is devolved in full. So I support, Mr. Speaker, the government to come with policies to curb hunger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Arungutangwa. The Honorable Wamatinga Wahome, Nyeri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also like to support. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that every country is supposed to have what you call strategic food reserve that's supposed to meet the needs of its population whenever the circumstances like the ones we've been facing the last couple of months comes to fore. However, we know that there was an, there was an oversight on the side of the national government. As much as agriculture is a devolved function, the responsibility of maintaining a strategic grain reserve is vested with the national government. This was overlooked, and moving forward, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think this is one of the things that we should ensure. And as much as agriculture is a devolved function, and we say that as a Senate we should take the responsibility of unbundling the functions that have been devolved and making sure that they go to the county government, we must also ensure that county governments also come up with a strategic plan on how they'll be maintaining their strategic reserves. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is an open secret that the problem we face in this country is actually not drought, but mismanagement of the logistics to preserve the post-harvest food that whenever we enjoy a bumper harvest. If you walk into the county of Nyandarua today, and partly in the county of Nyeri, some of it, a big 110 kilogram sack of carrot is being sold at a throwaway price. What we have failed as a government to do is to embrace value addition and to extend the life of post-harvest over the foodstuffs that we do harvest. If we work on the technology that is currently and readily available in the world, we should be able to preserve some of these foods that go to waste after harvest. I want to give the example of countries like Holland, which harvest tomatoes, and they're able to preserve them to be used like 3 years later. If we embrace that kind of technology, Mr. Speaker, sir, then we will not have some parts of the country going hungry. Now that the rains have set in, Mr. Speaker, sir, we would expect in the next couple of months, we'll have bumper harvest on milk, and we'll see a lot of it going to waste because the country does not or has not prepared itself to deal with situations where we have a lot and where we have too little. Counties like Uasin Gishu right now, they are harvesting maize, but we are embarking on importation of the same.
we will see a situation whereby the farmers in Rift Valley are not able to sell their surplus because the government has already licensed importation of maize and other dry grains. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think we have a duty as a House and as a mandate, as a Senate, to get back to the county governments as we do what Senator Karungo has said, telling the CEC's agriculture to explain to us what they are doing. We must also ask ourselves and the national government, what is the policy framework that has been put in place to ensure that we do not lose a lot after we have harvested? If we do that, Mr. Speaker, sir, we will not only start agro-processing, but we will also ensure that Kenyans would not go hungry. On the issue of modifying the kind of seeds that we put on the ground, it is known to everybody, it is in the public domain that the climate has changed a lot. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, we also need to adopt technologies that go with the changing times. The introduction of kind of seeds that will perform better in our climatic conditions, what other people are calling technically, genetically modified, it is a way that we must not beat about the bush. It is where the country is going. It is moving with the technology, and we'll have no option than moving along and introducing those kind of seeds that will be able to withstand the kind of climatical conditions we have around this country, so that we can not only become food self-reliant, but we can also get a way of feeding raw materials into our agro-processing industries that has been a commitment of this government to establish. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think with that, I say I support. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir.
The Honorable Senator Olekina Ledama.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I rise to support this motion by the distinguished Senator Monfire. Mr. Speaker, the issue of food security is something which is very important, that I was hoping that all delegations, all 47 delegations would be here to discuss it in a very sober and progressive way. Mr. Speaker, we know the problem and we know the solutions. But because we are greedy and because we don't care to think about future generations, we don't give a hoot in hell. Mr. Speaker, I think it's about time that when a motion like this comes before this House, we now start looking at the resolutions which are being sought here. When we talk about food security, every county in this country must understand its weather patterns. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I was talking to some of my workers and I was suggesting that we should start planting maize now. And most of them say, no. Even if the rains are here, we don't know about the sun when it comes to January. If my workers, who most of them do not have the education that a lot of people in the policy department have, can be able to understand the weather patterns, why can these so-called experts understand it better? Mr. Speaker, this issue of food security is something that we now, as a country, unless we are prepared to starve to death, and sometimes I wonder, is it because that we can afford to dress very nicely, wear expensive suits, drive fancy cars, that we don't care about the people in Turkana, that we don't care about the millions of people in this country who are currently starving? When you read from a motion like this, that over 950,000 pregnant mothers are now facing malnutrition, what do you think about the future of this country? As a country, Mr. Speaker, it is about time that we now start really asking questions and moving forward to be able to see solutions and to be able to follow the progress of these solutions coming in. Right now, every county government should be thinking about water reserves so that if all these rains come, and I did something other people will consider it very crazy. Recently, there was a path that goes through the side of the road where I live. And I said, you know, with this rains coming in, my dams are empty. So you know what I did? I went and I brought a lot of stones. I barricaded the place. The water came in, and I diverted the water into 3 of my dams. So tomorrow in January, when the rains don't come, I can still use that water to be able to irrigate my corn. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to be innovative. I do not subscribe to the school of thought that says that we must genetically modify the food for us to be able to survive in this country. You know, I share that my views on GMO are advised by the research which is out there. I don't want our kids to be born, and I think we will be adjourning the House in the next 3 minutes to discuss that issue. I don't want future kids to be born with 6 fingers just because we do not. I don't want a situation where a country, a developing nation, because I still consider Kenya, even if Kenya is the largest economy in East and Central Africa, with a GDP of $110 billion, most of us who live in the rural areas are still surviving with a $1 a day. If the normal people, if they don't work in a day, they starve. So I think now, with this motion that has been proposed by the distinguished Senator Mofaya, right now, the Committee of Agriculture in this House should follow up and ensure that since agriculture is devolved, very little money should be left in Nairobi, in the capital. The money which should be left, not Nairobi County, so that I don't get in trouble with my good brothers from Senator from Nairobi, but from the national government. Once we devolve, let's look at each and every county. When you go to a county like Kajiado, Narok, you go to Samburu, you go to the north, what we need to be thinking about is a government offtake program that guarantees that farmers, when they have their cows, they can still sell their cows at a minimum of 50,000 Kenya shillings. And that the technology is there. If my good brother, and I know I have 30 seconds, my good brother, Senator from Nyeri, can sit down and discuss with me about technology to be able to preserve meat, we can discuss that. Because you're already harvesting it, you're already slaughtering the cow. But if you are coming to discuss with me a technology where we alter the genetics of human beings, because to a greater extent, when you alter the genetics of food, when you modify the genetics of food, you're modifying it. You're modifying the genetics of human being. In most cases, Mr. Speaker, and I want to qualify my statement there, a lot of people suffer from secondary smoking. If you sit in a place where people are smoking every day, if you sleep in a room that everybody is smoking in every day, and I'm sure, Doctor, the majority whip will agree with me, you will have secondary smoking. You know, you're not the one primarily smoking, but if you sleep in a room that someone has been smoking on a daily basis, you will end up suffering, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the time is up and it's time for us to adjourn, but I wish that I can, because this is a matter which is continuing, the remaining minutes I can be able to have them later.
That is not at Senator Olekina Ledama. I am also equally aware that there are a good number of honorable senators in the queue. Senator Esther is on the queue, Okoiti, Nyamu, Tobiko, Pesi. We will resume this motion tomorrow, and you will be given priority so that you contribute to it. We have Senator Olekina, I am informed that you will have 14 minutes tomorrow to debate on this particular motion. Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, you are aware that it is now 5:30. There was an appointed time by the Honorable Speaker to discuss the motion that had been sought by the Honorable Senator Madzayo, and I would like to request you to proceed and move your motion. It's now 5:30.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the motion that pursuant to Standing Order 37, the Senate do now adjourn to discuss a definite matter of national importance, namely the decision by the government to authorize the cultivation and importation of banned genetically modified organism foods. Mr. Speaker, the Biosafety Act of 2009 was passed into law by the Kenyan Parliament in December 2008. It received the presidential assent on the 12th of December 2009. Mr. Speaker, only Parliament holds the supreme legislative power to amend or alter the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the decision to lift the ban on GMO and the importation is a total betrayal to our country. We have reasons to believe that the authorization of the 10 million bags of genetically modified maize is a push from the foreign nations and their multinational companies. We call upon the President to immediately reverse the decision on the GMO until Parliament and Kenyans have full knowledge on this. Mr. Speaker, sir, the churches have spoken. The mosques have spoken. The members of Parliament have spoken. Even the ministers in our government have spoken. And indeed, it's time now that the President listened. Mr. Speaker, for the last 10 years, there has been no need to import or allow open cultivation of genetically modified organisms, food, as the country has been able to make do without GMOs. Our farmers have continued to produce the bulk of Kenya's maize supply, and the deficit of an average of 10 million bags per year has been supplemented through trade with our neighboring countries, mainly Tanzania and Uganda, that are GMO-free. Mr. Speaker, the reasons why we say no to GMOs is the lack of public participation. You will note that, Mr. Speaker, that the decision was reached without public consultation, and the views of the public were not considered in the decision to lift the ban, which curtails the freedom of Kenyans to choose what they want to eat or what they don't want to eat. Mr. Speaker, Kenyans are not aware on the purported research or report of the task force which was used to arrive at this decision, which stands in violation of the provisions of the right to access to information. When was this task force formed? When was it gazetted? And who chaired it? And who were the members? Mr. Speaker, there have been researches on GMOs.
What is your
which have
intervention,
shown
Senator?
increased resistance to antibiotics.
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the minority knows very well that the standing orders are against a member moving a motion by reading a document. Could he choose between reading the document or passing out as handouts? Mr. Speaker, he's a very experienced man. a lawyer of many years standing, a justice, and is reading to us. Could you share with us that document so that when we are responding, we are also on the same page?
Senator Halwale, I noticed that the Honorable Senator Madzayo had actually finished reading the statement and his motion, and he was actually responding, he was not reading, if I could confirm what I saw. But go ahead, Senator, so that you conclude on commenting on your motion.
Oh, my time is also taken care of with this interruption. Mr. Speaker, agriculture, as we are aware, in this country, is the mainstay of more than 60% of the Kenyans. The Speaker, Kenyans right now eat ugali. And it's going to be extremely dangerous, Mr. Speaker, if ugali now will be mixed with something else, that Kenyans themselves will find themselves in such a difficult situation. In the sense that, Mr. Speaker, you'll notice that particularly on issues of diseases, there is going to be a lot of resistance on antibiotics. Similarly, there is possible links to cancer and reproductive of malnutrition. Mr. Speaker, our social economic concerns on this are based on the fact that Kenyans rely on one particular foodstuff, which is maize. And I think I went to my brother, Senator Kalwale's house in Kakamega one time, and we ate a lot of ugali and chicken. Now I'm wondering if this ugali which were given by Senator Kalwale was with GMO, then I don't know whether some of us would have been men. He's a bullfighter and a man also, so I believe. So, Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to say we have what we call the National Biosafety Authority, which is there to regulate GMOs. This authority, which is the body vested with this kind of responsibility, it lacks the scientific facilities to either tell whether these are the seeds are safe or not safe. So all we are saying is that we need full disclosure on this. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude and say that the people of Kenya would like to have a discussion on this. And we want to call upon the government to reinstate that ban, which will include the public participation, and also I want to emphasize that we have very capable institutions in this country which could also have been consulted or can be roped in, and that is Kenyatta University of Agriculture. We have Jack Watt. We have Egerton College. We have the University of Nairobi College of Agriculture and Veterinary Science, the Kenya Seed Company, who have for a long time, there have been bodies that have the capacity, and we know them, and they can tell the Kenyans exactly what is the issue with these GMOs. Mr. Speaker, all I would like to say or emphasize is that Kenyans would like to have full disclosures and full participation on the discussion with regards to GMOs. Otherwise, GMOs will render this country to have infertility, to have a lot of scientific issues that I think would be good for the human body. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to call my brother, Ledama Olekina, to second.
Senator Ledama Olekina, you've got 5 minutes to second and discuss this motion. Yes. Yes.
We need to change these standing orders, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll try to be very brief and to the point. And I want Kenyans out there to listen to me. I want them to give me an ear. Because this afternoon, I'm here to plead with Kenyans not to allow the importations of GMO into this country. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is the largest economy in East and Central Africa, with a GDP of 110 billion. Kenya currently relies on neighboring countries to be able to supply products, buy products from them. We have so many counties, Mr. Speaker, which borders Uganda, and you know there's a lot of crops that come from Uganda, and subsequently there's a lot of products that leave Kenya to go to Uganda. Tanzania is equally the same. Mr. Speaker, if you go to London today and you open a fridge, you will find all vegetables coming from Kenya. Not only horticulture, but you will find asparagus, you will find broccoli, a lot of broccolis coming from Kiambu, coming from Nandi. You will also find what they call mishiri, or French beans, coming from Narok, Nyandarua County. Mr. Speaker, whenever we think about an action, one of the things that I'd like even the authorities in Kenya to think about is what is referred to as unintended consequences. By allowing GMO to come into this country, we're not only exposing our population into what has already been laid out there as being the dangers of GMO, and I'll name them. Number one, toxicity. Number two, allergic reactions. Number three, antibiotic resistance. Number four, immune suppression. Number five, loss of nutrition. Mr. Speaker, I'm holding a piece of corn here, maize, that we all enjoy. And we eat it on a daily basis. And it is very sweet, Mr. Speaker. All of us, Mr. Speaker, went on a short break and enjoyed a piece of corn. When we are told that the food which is brought into this country will not be nutritious, how are we going to be able to survive?
What's your point of order, Senator Karungu Thangwa?
Mr. Speaker, is the senator in order to eat in Parliament? Mr. Speaker, to eat food in the chamber, Mr. Speaker.
Thangwa, yes, Honorable Senator Olekina, you are a senior member of this House, and I am aware that the Speaker has previously ruled that members are barred from having food, not water. Drinking is water, food in the chamber. Could you kindly refrain from doing the same as you proceed to contribute to the motion?
Mr. Speaker, the point is already made. I am speaking to Kenyans out there, and I don't know, you need to give me some more time because my time was interrupted. You know, when we're here, Mr. Speaker, the rules are set by this House, but when something is so emotive, and when you want people to be able to understand why some of us are completely against modifying genetics, is because you want to be able to demystify for people out there to understand clearly what it is that you mean for them. Mr. Speaker, if you take a piece of corn, which the genetics have already been modified. In the US, Mr. Speaker, and I lived in the US for 20 years, it's my second home. Most of the corn there is only fed to animals. It is not fed to human beings. The nutritional value is zero. So, Mr. Speaker, I know we have a very short time to be able to plead to Kenyans. I know I have maybe 2 minutes left for me to be able to end. But I
You've
want
got
to
1 minute. I'm giving you 1 minute so
1
that
minute.
you conclude. Thank you.
The light is what I saw, Mr. Speaker. I want to call upon Kenyans out there that this is the time that you now start thinking about future generations. We are a country that today, some of us, like me, believe that we are living now in a kleptocracy where the people who rule this country do not care. You've seen sentiments being made by former members of parliament. In fact, today, this was very interesting. Alfred Keter last time told us that William Ruto has 500,000 acres of land in Congo, and that he's with corn, GMO. And just today we saw sheep docking. Today the reality of this thing is going to hit so hard. Farmers in Kakamega will not be able to enjoy their ugali. Mr. Speaker, I wish I would have taken ugali and really squeezed it like this. And you make ugali made out of GMO, it will be like porridge. They will no longer have bullfighters. So the farmers of Rift Valley, today you are going to the streets. You are being coerced. You are being forced to sell all your maize before this country is dumped with a lot of maize, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask you, if you care about future generation and you care about yourself, say no to GMO. Mr. Speaker, I beg to second.
Honorable Senators, I now put the question that pursuant to Standing Order 37, the Senate do now adjourn to discuss a definite matter of national importance, namely the decision by the government to authorize the cultivation and importation of banned genetically modified organism, that is GMO foods. Honorable members, I now open up the contribution, and each senator is to utilize 5 minutes to discuss on this particular matter.
The Honorable Senator Boni Halwale, Kakamega.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the debate on the floor this afternoon requires that we demonstrate leadership not to cause panic in the countryside amongst the populace. It is true that the President has expressed himself on the issue of GMO, and therefore those who want to play politics by making him look bad should keep the populace away from it. I speak with maximum authority, honorable members, because I'm not only a scientist, but I am specifically trained in medical science. Scientists are ethical people, and the common denominator, Mr. Speaker, of science, research, and technology in this area, Mr. Speaker, is that only desirable strains are expressed agriculturally out of research that are harmless to the people. That is the common denominator. And the GMO that is in question, leader of the minority, I beg you, let's not make people panic. The GMO that is in question is based on the following things, that research. That when you're growing maize, you have a challenge of the pests, you've got to fix them. Then the herbs that grow along with the maize, you fix them. Then you have the pesticides and the herbicides that you use. So when scientists are doing this research, they make sure that the product that comes out is resistant to pests and resistant to herbicides. And that's exactly what the GMO has done. It has brought out a strain that is resistant to pests and herbicides. That's all. And I swear, you can do your reading. There is nowhere in the world, not one place, where ill effects of GMO have been reported in any population anywhere in the world.
What's your point of order, Senator Olekina?
I have tremendous respect for the majority whip. But if history serves me right, the majority whip was a member of parliament when this parliament banned the importation of GMO. I'm sure my sister, the distinguished senator from Wasingishu County, will be able to make those submissions. Mr. Speaker, the African Union banned the importation of GMO in this country. Is the majority whip in order to lie to the public or to deceive the public that there's nothing that has been found to be wrong? If the African Union itself, and he was a member of this House. You know, Mr. Speaker, let us be honest with each other. And I'm not saying that he cannot debate, but being a ranking member, a member of this House, he was a member of parliament when they passed to ban GMO into this country. Please, is he in order to deceive this nation?
Point of order, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order to say, the senator that I respect so much from Kakamega, and we've been together for a long time, to say that I have caused panic? To who? Is it in order to say that?
I listened to the Honorable Senator Halwale, and for purposes of Olekina's point of order, he spoke as a trained scientist. To the extent that he's making his contribution to what is normally input in what he termed as strains in developing of certain products. But Senator Halwale, you may proceed noting those orders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I've said is on record, the record of the Hansard. And in the fullness of time, people will refer to what we are saying here. I'm not defending anybody. I'm stating a fact of science. A fact of science. Just if you bear with me, you've had your say, let me have my way. If we were to vote, you would still have your way. Just like in 2008,
Senator Halwale, could you address the...
Yes. Just like in 2008, Mr. Speaker, sir, when the few tiny number of scientists who were in Parliament had our say, and the majority had their say, their way. There's nothing we can do about it. And I want to assure members of the public that government cannot be reckless. There is no government, Mr. Speaker, there can be no government, Mr. Speaker, that would go to the people vote for it, expect the same people to vote for it 5 years later, and embark on a process of eliminating those people. It's not possible. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg members of this House, and I have nothing against what you believe in, but believe in me.
Senator Madzayo, what is your concern again?
Yeah, you can inform me.
Are you ready for information, Halwale?
Mr. Speaker, I want to inform my brother and a very close friend of mine, the bullfighter, that in one of those sittings, Senator Orengo, James Orengo, who was here in the other session of the Senate, he stated very clearly that the laws we pass here, or the decision that we make here, if we do them because we are in power, then the same laws can come back to haunt us. And therefore, he appealed for people to have sober approach to every decision they make in the Senate. And if I can quote him, he said, this very government you are protecting so much, so jealously, comes back to eat its own at one stage. And you are eaten at some stage, I believe. Mr. Speaker, that's the information I wanted to pass. So he should not actually support a situation which he knows very well as a medical doctor, that he'll have people become infertile. You know, we'll have dysfunctionings of some areas, and you are aware of it as a medical doctor, that this GMO will cause a lot of harm to men, particularly men. They will cause a lot of harm. Young people like the Senator of Kiambu will suffer the consequences. He might not even have 6 children the way you have. He might end up with the one child that he has, and he won't get any other child. So I want to request, or I want to inform my brother that. Thank you.
Thank you for the information, but it looks like you're a poor student. The Honorable Senator Orengo was referring to a statement of literature, i.e., revolutions eat their own children. So when you want to apply facts of science, keep away from the drama of literature. Mr. Speaker, the people who are opposing this motion have a right to do so. But don't forget, you are being driven by conspiracy theories. As recently as a few months ago, this country was abound with conspiracy theories about the corona vaccine. We were told all manner of things. I have been vaccinated 4 times. My wives have been vaccinated, my children have been vaccinated, many people in Kakamega have been vaccinated. I'm yet to meet a woman who has grown a beard because she got the corona vaccine. I'm yet to meet one of my sons growing breasts for the same reason, or losing their libido, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, conspiracy cannot advance science. If we were relying on conspiracy, today we would not be ruling the skies. The jet engine is a product of science. The jet light tube, which will be the reason why the honorable members in this House will enjoy the World Cup this evening, is born out of research. I want to conclude, Mr. Speaker, by confirming that universally it is agreed that food derived from genetic engineering, current food, is not in any way more harmful than conventional food. Senator Latama has been right. He's talked about food toxicity. He has talked about allergy. 1 minute, Mr. Speaker, sir.
1 minute as you close,
just concluding,
Senator
because of the many points of order. Thank you. He has talked about allergy, toxicity, and so on. Tell me if the allergic reactions that people have because of consuming food, including our children, which I have been seeing in my clinics for tens of years, was a result of GMO. When I first took GMO, Mr. Speaker, as a little boy, we were given yellow maize because there was shortage of food. Mr. Speaker, the same theories were there. And people are still alive. I conclude, Mr. Speaker, you'll inform me later. 1 minute. Before you inform me, I conclude by telling Kenyans that in my culture, we believe there's nothing like bad food. In my culture, we believe that food is only bad when you're not hungry. Yes, I would like Asige to inform me if the Speaker so allows.
Go ahead, Senator Asige. You're not yet on the mic. Could you please use the mic? The mic is being brought to you, Senator.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Just a point of information to distinguished Senator for Kakamega. In terms of allergies, and he had spoken this a few minutes back about tell me of one incident in history that issues have been caused by GMO foods. I'd like to give a point of information, which is as far back as 1996, Mr. Speaker. There is a company called Pioneer High Bread that went on a GMO mission, and they decided to splice Brazilian nuts together with soybeans. And because they did so and put this food out into the market, this genetically modified food out into the market, there were consumers who suffered. There were consumers who suffered anaphylactic shock, which is an allergy, a very serious one, which can cause death, Mr. Speaker. So that's just one point of information. That is as far back as 1996. So when he says that there is no evidence out there in history, I just wanted to inform the good Senator. Asante.
Senator, kindly accept the information.
Allow me. I would like to accept your point of information. You are right. But as we say in science, little knowledge is dangerous. Eggs cause allergy. Eggs are not GMO.
Senator Halwale.
Fish causes allergy. Fish is not
Senator
GMO.
Halwale, I gave you the opportunity to accept the information.
Thank you,
Senator.
thank you, thank you.
Your time was up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Senator Kamar. Senator Kamar, Margaret.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I listened very keenly to the previous speaker, and I didn't get to a conclusion as to what he said, because he has mixed science, and it's not very clear. Mr. Speaker, I want to start from the history of the banning of GMOs in Kenya, because I was privileged with the Speaker, and in fact, Senator Alwale, to be in the 10th Parliament. In the 10th Parliament, when the banning took place, I'm the one who seconded the motion. I seconded the motion, Mr. Speaker, because the motion was being tabled by the Minister of Health, the Senator Beth Mugo, and I was then the Senator of Science and Technology, where the National Biosafety Authority was based. And Mr. Speaker, the reason we banned was because of unpreparedness. And my contribution is going to be around how prepared are we to receive GMOs? Are we prepared? Are we ready? Do we just import or not? Because at the time, the Senator Beth Muko, we had a meeting with her, and we discussed, because the issue was health issues. And Mr. Speaker, we borrow this idea of banning GMOs, particularly from the EU. And what the EU at the time had done was to ban GMOs because of the fear that there was potential cause of harm to both human beings and livestock. And no researcher had given any conclusive evidence that there was no harm. So the real facts, real science was being done. And we had our own biosafety authority, which I was privileged to have under the ministry I was heading. But I did only ask them one question: are we ready? And they said no. The reason they said no is that we have very good scientists, but there was no research fund that enabled them to test these things that we are talking about. As we are talking, Mr. Speaker, 16 countries in the EU have banned GMOs. Germany, France, Latvia, the Netherlands, all those food-producing countries, Belgium included, all of them are banned. And the reason they are banned GMOs is that they have not managed in their own countries to research enough to know the safety of these foods. So the biggest question is, how ready are we as a country? How prepared are we? Have we prepared ourselves? At the time when I seconded, I gave the proposal that came from our research institutions and the Biosafety Authority in particular, that there is need to pump in some research fund so that our scientists can give us a conclusive research on whether these products are really harmful or not harmful. What we would have expected as we open up is a report from our scientists, NBA to speak. We really want the National Biosafety Authority to say something, because if they don't say anything, it is really not about causing fear, as Senator Alwale is saying. What we are saying is we all fear and we all need to be very safe in what we consume. So there is need to increase the research fund in this country. It is good, it is very important that we allow our scientists to distinguish between the myths and the facts about this thing called genetically modified food. And what is modification, Mr. Speaker? Modification is about removing a gene and adding another one. The question, and I was waiting for Senator Alwale to say, is where is the source of this gene that was introduced to the food crops that we have? I have no problem with BT cotton in particular. I think it is very important that we distinguish what we want and what we can reject. BT cotton is very important. It is very good. The ball armyworm doesn't attack that cotton, and we can use it. Reason also, we are already wearing clothes that are from BT cotton. But then for food consumption, we need to be very sure that we are consuming food that does not have any harmful organism in there. 1 minute as I wind up, Mr. Speaker. We need to be very clear that what we consume is really good, and we must think about that. But there are two other areas that we must look at, and that is what Senator Olegina mentioned. Our export, currently, Kenya exports fresh produce to Europe, to the same 16 countries. The minute we say we have GMO, this will be stopped. So the implication is going to be bigger than we think. Lastly, the right to choose what you want to eat. Even in the US, where GMOs are consumed, when you go to the shelves, any supermarket, and we actually asked, as minister at that time, I asked our ambassador to go to the supermarket and give us evidence. And he took photos. When you are in the supermarket in the US, they label what is GMO and what is not GMO, and leave it to you to choose what you want to eat. And in fact, he said, you go to the supermarket and GMO food is full on the shelf, while the shelves where the food is organic are empty. So it means also they have a right. So finally, Mr. Speaker, it is very important that Kenyans also get to choose. So the right to choose must be in our NBA law, so that even when we introduce GMOs, we should label our food. We should be able to label and to put it in the market for anybody who wants to consume. Mr. Speaker, 5 minutes is a terrible short time, but I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kamar, for your contribution. I want to urge the honorable members to stick to the time, because the interest in this motion is heavy, and I would be happy if everyone else got the opportunity who has expressed the interest to do so. Kindly, let's keep to the 5 minutes time, and we shall thereafter from here be very strict. We will just clock on at the click of the 5 minutes. The Honorable Senator Ekinyuri Esther Anyene.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would love to contribute to this matter by saying, first, lifting the ban on GMO does not mean in any way that whoever was using GMO food will stop. Those with the luxury of engaging in GMO agriculture and planting and harvesting such kind of food will continue to do so. But as a House representative of the people, we should confront the real facts as they are. Currently, Kenya is not food secure. That's the matter we are dealing with now. which is also, when you remember what Senator Mofaya was actually raising this afternoon on the drought situation. So the truth of the matter is Kenya as a country is not food secure, and this GMO debate we are having is about embracing innovation so that we empower our farmers to also compete with other countries. Zimbabwe and South Africa has been importing and, you know, GMO food. But have they been confronted by the horrors we are talking about in this house? That's something these honorable members should think about. And as an upper house, I do not think we have the capacity to interrogate settled scientific issues, not unless we want to invite expert witnesses to this house. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to also remind these members that Azimio, who are largely complaining that Kenya Kwanza is not doing anything to lower the cost of unga, are the same people who are opposing initiatives being taken by the government to help ordinary people afford the locally available products. Thank you.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki, Mombasa.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia hoja ya Senator Mazayo kuhusiana na matumizi ya chakula cha GMO ama vyakula vya kisaki kwa Kiswahili sanifu, ama vyakula vya viini tete ambavyo waziri ama cabinet secretary wa mambo ya biashara alitangaza juzi kwamba itakubaliwa nchini Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningejiunga na wenzangu ambao wanapinga uamuzi huo wa waziri wa kuleta vyakula hivi kwa sasa katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Kwanza kabisa ni kwamba hatujakuwa na yes, what is that of order?
What's your point of order, Senator Halwale?
Mr. Speaker, ni sahihi Mheshimiwa Senator kusema kwamba hii vyakula ya GMO iko na viini. Tafadhali kama anamaanisha chembe chembe ambazo zinaweza dhuru atueleze, lakini kutuambia viini, atuambie hiyo viini inasababisha ugonjwa gani, Mr. Speaker?
Sijasema kwamba chakula cha GMO kina viini, lakini GMO ni genetically modified foods ambao genetics kwa Kiswahili tunaita viini. Chasikia? Viini ndio genetics. Kwa hivyo hivi ni viini tete kwa sababu ni viini ambavyo havijulikani. Ni viini ambavyo havijulikani, vimeundwa kwa misingi gani ndio vikaitwa viini tete, kwa sababu ni viini ambavyo havikubaliki kisayansi. Kwa hivyo ndio inasemekana kwamba ni viini tete. Lugha nyingine ya Kiswahili kwamba vyakula vya kisaki. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba kwa sasa hatuna utaalamu hapa nchini Kenya, na nilimnukuu Profesa Kamar akisema kwamba swala hili lilikuwako mwaka 2012 nafikiri, wakati walipopiga marufuku matumizi ya vyakula hivi. Ni kwa sababu kwamba hakujakuwa na utafiti wa kisayansi wa kutosha kuthibitisha kwamba vyakula hivi vitakuwa ni salama kwa Wakenya. Na mpaka leo Mheshimiwa Spika, hatujapata utafiti huo wa kuthibitisha kwamba viini hivi ama vyakula hivi vitakuwa salama kwa Wakenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, hapa Kitui kuna wakati fulani ndugu zetu walifariki kwa kula mahindi ambayo yalikuwa yameharibika, ambayo yalikuwa na vile virusi ambavyo mavini vinaitwa aflatoxin kwa Kiingereza. Kwa Kiswahili vinaitwa mwabila ama mwabila kwa Kiswahili, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni swala ambalo Mheshimiwa Spika ungeomba unilinde kwa sababu sitaweza kumaliza, nishawashwa taa hapa, point of order zinakuja zikija. angeniacha nimaliza kuzungumza alafu atapewa fursa nyingine. Mheshimiwa Spika, tunasema kwamba
I want to intervene so that we don't just waste much time again. Yes. What's your point of order, Senator Halwale?
Mr. Speaker, rekodi ya nyumba hii lazima ionyeshe ukweli. Mheshimiwa anatuambia maana ya viini ni genetics kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Na kulingana na kamusi, na naomba ruksa yako Bwana Speaker, nisomee hii nyumba maana ya viini. Kulingana na kamusi wameandika kwamba viini ama vijidudu kwa lugha ya Kimombo wakasema manake ni germs in Swahili ama chombo chochote ambacho kinaleta magonjwa. Mr. Speaker, ni haki mheshimiwa ambaye anajigamba kwamba anatoka kule Pwani kupotosha hii nyumba kwamba viini ni genetics na sisi tunajua ni vijidudu.
That is not that, Senator Faki. Could you just, Madzayo? You are not on the mic.
Bwana Speaker, nafikiri itakuwa ni tabia mbaya sana if you are going to allow this, kama utaruhusu kitu kama hichi kutendeka. Kwa sababu mtu akiwa anaongea huwa na katika akili yake ameset vile anaweza kupesi. Lakini sasa ikiwa itakuwa ni uwerevu ama ni kusimama tu na kusema kwamba niko na hoja ya nidhamu alafu aanze kuongea mambo ya hivi, ni lazima ulinde yule anayeongea pale. Yule anayeongea pale ana haki ya kuongea bila he can be listened in silence. Anaweza kusikika.
That's not that, honorable members. I had earlier on directed that we're going to stick to the 5 minutes program because of the limitation of time to debate this motion. Senator Faki, could you kindly conclude and
Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati wangu mwingi umechukuliwa na hoja za nidhamu ambazo hazina msingi wa nidhamu yoyote. Mheshimiwa Spika, anayozungumzia ni germs ambazo ni virusi. Lakini genetics ni viini ambavyo vinaunda mwili wa binadamu ama mwili wa mnyama yoyote ambaye anahusika. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, tunasema kwamba kwa sasa hatujakuwa na utaalamu katika nchi yetu ya Kenya kuthibitisha kwamba vyakula hivi ni salama kwa wananchi wetu. Na kwa sababu hiyo haitakuwa sawa kwa sasa Mheshimiwa Spika ile marufuku kuondolewa, kwa sababu marufuku ikiondolewa Mheshimiwa Spika, watu wengi watapata shida ya vyakula ambavyo havijui vinatoka wapi. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona kwamba ziko nchi nyingi ambazo zinavyo vyakula hizi na ambavyo hawana mahali pa kuvipeleka ama kuviuza. Kwa hivyo hii itaharibia pakubwa wakulima wetu ambao Mheshimiwa Spika majuzi tu walikuwa wanapewa mbolea ya bure ama mbolea ambayo imepunguzwa bei. Kwa hivyo ikiwa mazao yao yatakuja kwa wingi Mheshimiwa Spika, wale watauza mali yao wapi? Watauza wapi mazao yao? Kwa sababu ametoa serikali hii ya Kenya Kwanza ama Kenya Kwisha imetoa fursa ya kutoa mbolea kwa bei nafuu kwa wakulima wa mahindi ili waweze kupata vyakula, waweze kuzalisha mahindi zaidi ya ile ambayo wanazalisha kwa sasa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ikiwa tutakubali mazao kama haya ambayo yana utata, wale wananchi wetu, wale wakulima wetu Mheshimiwa Spika, watauza mahindi yao wapi? Ni kweli Mheshimiwa Spika, tuna upungufu wa mahindi, lakini tayari katika East African Community tumeweza kupata mahindi kutoka Tanzania, Malawi, Komesa, Uganda. Kwa hivyo haifai Mheshimiwa Spika kwa wakati huu kuleta vyakula kama hivi ambavyo vina utata vyenyewe kwanza, na pili hatujui madhara yake atakuwa vipi. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kumalizia ni kuwa wiki 3 zilizopita nilizungumzia zile dawa za kututumua mwili ambazo wadada wengi wanazitumia kuweza kupanua makalio Mheshimiwa Spika. Hivi vyakula vya kisaki Mheshimiwa Spika, ama hivi vyakula vya GMO Mheshimiwa Spika, vitakuwa na athari kama hiyo ambao Mheshimiwa Spika kwa sasa hatujui, na tayari kuna mkurupuko wa magonjwa ya kansa nchini mwetu. Kuna kansa za koo zimeongezeka, kuna kansa za matiti kwa kina dada Mheshimiwa Spika zimeongezeka, kuna kansa za tumbo kwa watu wengi ambazo wanaume zaidi wanapata athari kama hizo Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hiyo kwa sasa tukiruhusu vyakula hivi Mheshimiwa Spika, itakuwa tuhatarisha maisha ya nchi ya Kenya. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, mwisho ni kuwa ilikuwa ni kejeli kwa Waziri Moses Kuria kusema kwamba wananchi wa Kenya tayari wanakufa, kwa hivyo waendelee kufa, hata wakifa na GMO itakuwa hakuna hasara yote. Mheshimiwa Spika, hiyo ni kuonesha kwa Mheshimiwa Spika kwamba hajali maisha ya Mkenya katika nchi yetu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Thank you, the Honorable Senator Faki. Senator Nyamu Karen Njeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The matter before us is of national interest. We are being called upon as leaders to find solutions facing our country of dire hunger. We are called upon to take care of the people we represent in this House, Mr. Speaker. And it is very unfortunate that this debate is taking a political angle from how you can see the debate. The members on the minority side are determined to oppose the president and the government position for the sake of opposing. The issues they are raising are concerns. Those are concerns that have been raised on the GMO foods, but we are not talking of the pros, because just like anything, any other thing, GMOs have pros and cons to it. And if you look at the pros, which include drought-resistant crops, a shorter growth period, and less use of pesticide, tastier food. I have also read of potatoes that have aspects of reducing cancer and things like that, medicinal food. Because GMO is a product of science, and we know that science is supposed to benefit, and it has benefited humanity in a big way. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am expecting this House to take a position on behalf of the people of Kenya. Let us not be sensational about the food situation that we are facing right now. Can you imagine people who are eating wild fruits listening to us right now talking about how we will not give them maize just because it is GMO and there are some few concerns, so they should die? Let us rise up, and what is expected of us, let us rise up to the occasion and ban and lift the ban on GMOs, even if it is for a period of time, before we can become food sufficient. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Karen. Honorable Senator Sifuna Edwin Watenya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this particular debate. Mr. Speaker, as you know, I am not a scientist. I am a lawyer. So I will not stand here to argue the science, and in fact, I took great exception to a statement by my brother, Senator Khalwale, that scientists are ethical people. Khalwale went to the same school I did, Musingu High School. They taught history very well there. Mr. Speaker, you will recall the phenomenon of Nazi scientists, the people who came up with the gas chambers that were being used to perpetuate mass murders. Those were scientists, Khalwale. Mr. Speaker, the people who gave us things like atomic bombs, and even recently, there was a discussion on whether the corona pandemic or the coronavirus was manufactured in a lab. We are saying that human beings, irrespective of their training and profession, have the capacity for evil, Khalwale. And especially, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, when you put commercial interests ahead of the human interests. So I am going to refer this House to the legal arguments and leave the science to, I don't want to call Khalwale a scientist, but let's leave it to Khalwale. Mr. Speaker, as a lawyer, I understand that under Article 10 of the Constitution, whenever any state organ, state officer or public officer makes or implements public policy decisions, as grave as this one on the lifting of the ban on GMO, they are bound by the values and principles under Article 10. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer you to three of these values. Number one is participation of the people, what we usually call public participation. We may argue the science, Mr. Speaker. We should be allowed to argue the science. But what I get Professor Margaret Kamar to be telling us is there was a reason in 2012 why this ban was put in place. If there is new science to show us that this food is safe, All we are saying, Khalwale, is that we are not dumb people. We can be taught. We are teachable people. Show us the new evidence that has now emerged to show that these particular organisms are actually safe. But as it is right now, Mr. Speaker, what we are protesting is a unilateral decision by the government or by the cabinet to lift the ban without having allowed for this broad discussion to happen. Number two, Mr. Speaker, there is a value called patriotism. Patriotism means you love your own people, you love your own country, and you protect your own people. Mr. Speaker, there has been arguments that, in fact, this introduction of the GMOs are going to disenfranchise many farmers because of the question of the technology that is employed in this particular field of genetics, Mr. Speaker. That many of these organisms that have been created out of this process are subject to very serious patents that you cannot even reuse the seeds once you've planted one crop. You have to go back to the person who has the patent to be able to buy that particular crop. Mr. Speaker, that means the government of the day in making this decision is being unpatriotic by failing to protect our very own farmers. We should also, patriotism also means, Mr. Speaker, that you love your people. You cannot love your people and then, as a CS for trade, you stand up and say there are 1,000 ways to die, let's add one more way to die so that Kenyans can have a choice. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, there is the need to protect the marginalized. Mr. Speaker, you've been told here that in other countries, you can label food to say this is GMO and this is non-GMO, and then you have a choice. Mr. Speaker, for the poor people of this country, that is a false choice. As Khalwale told you, that when you are hungry sometimes, Senator Khalwale alluded to it, when you're hungry sometimes, Mr. Speaker, if somebody tells you, okay, there is a packet of unga here, but it is GMO, you have not eaten for 3 days, Mr. Speaker, it's a false choice. We have a responsibility as this House, as a government, to be able to protect the vulnerable by making policies that protect everyone, irrespective of whether they can actually exercise a choice such as that because of their pockets or not. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, as I spoke to this issue last time, I am Catholic, and the Catholic community receives instructions on everything from the Pope. The Pope issued an encyclical on the 24th of May 2015 on this particular subject. It has not changed, Mr. Speaker. I just beg for 1 minute to finish that point. The position...
Senator Sifuna, we are running out of time. Could
1
you
minute,
kindly
Mr.
conclude?
Speaker. It's the last point.
Kindly conclude.
Yes.
Kindly.
Mr. Speaker, the position of the Catholic Church, for which Sifuna is a baptized and confirmed member, is that this food called a GMO is a no-go zone for us as Catholics. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Sifuna. Honorable members, I notice that it is 1 minute to 6:30, and we are supposed to adjourn at 6:30, but under standing order number 34, I am extending the sitting of the House for the next 10 minutes in order to accommodate the honorable senators who are in the queue. I want to request whoever will get an opportunity to spare 2 minutes so that we can all have an opportunity to contribute to this one. Senator Karungu Thangwa Paul.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In 2020, South Africa conducted consumer awareness in matters GMO. And what they found as an impediment was illiteracy, Mr. Speaker. People did not understand about GMO. And I wouldn't want this House to be included in that list of not understanding what GMO is, so we only block the idea for not understanding. Even the Bible says, Mr. Speaker, that my people will perish due to lack of knowledge, which is due to lack of information. I think it's Hosea 4:6. So, Mr. Speaker, as it has been urged by fellow senators here, let us understand exactly what GMO is, Mr. Speaker. Our forefathers have been practicing GMO for a long time, genetically modifying plants by cutting a piece of one branch from a different plant to another plant. That is grafting. That is genetically modifying the genes of that plant. Crossbreeding, Mr. Speaker. You take your heifer to your neighbor's house because they have a better breed. That is genetically modifying that kind of heifer to get proper production, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, before we say no to GMO, let us understand it's coming to solve the issues of hunger. 28 countries, Mr. Speaker, cannot be wrong. Mr. Speaker, 83% of soybean, Mr. Speaker, 83% of soybean grown in the whole world is GMO, Mr. Speaker. We have been drinking that milk in our supermarket, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, after nearly 3 decades of GMO use, Mr. Speaker, according to my research, the ISAA, that is the International Service for the Acquisition of Agribiotech Application, Mr. Speaker, after 3 decades of use of GMO, found no harm in this kind of food, Mr. Speaker. So this is a debate that
Honorable Senator Okech Edi Kisharu.
Mr. Speaker, my heart bleeds for my country, very seriously, because a house such as this, when matters that comes to our existential threats are brought in this house, I don't expect us to suspend our bipartisan nature as a house. When we choose to poison animals and choose to poison plants, we are poisoning ourselves, Mr. Speaker. And we cannot hide the agenda of GMO on shortage of food in place of availability of food, Mr. Speaker. Today's world population, Mr. Speaker, is averaged at 7.8 billion. The projection is by 2050, Mr. Speaker, we will have about 9 billion people in the world. The production of food in the world today, Mr. Speaker, is enough to feed 14 billion people. The question is not, and has never been, the issue of shortage. It is the issue of availability. In this country, we have seen, and Senator Bonello is very clear on this, when drought is killing people in the north, we have seen in Kiambu, Kenyans taking their cabbages to give animals because they don't have market access. We cannot trivialize the issue of GMO to an extent that we want to kill our people. You can talk about GMO, Mr. Speaker, without looking at the United States. And the US, which is a key partner of Kenya on the matters of GMO, 50% of GMO food in the US is given to animals. Mr. Speaker, just 1 minute. And 30% of food in the United States, and Boni Alwale knows this, Senator Boni Alwale knows this, 30% is used for biofuels. 8% in the US is used to make the fructose that makes corn syrup, that is basically for processed sweets. And then the rest is exported. There's nowhere in the US that people are consuming this GMO.
Senator, your time is up. Senator Wamatinga Wahome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm also surprised by the little knowledge that is in this house. Being an engineer, I want to say process optimization, process modification, process re-engineering is actually undertaken to achieve more efficiency. As has been expressed here by Senator Kalungo Dangwa, when you crossbreed animals, you actually modify them genetically. When you do the grafting of plants, you actually modify them genetically. What we are saying here is that we want to get a breed of crop called maize that will do better in Turkana, in Samburu, in Marar, in the dry region. What we are only saying is that we've optimized this seed to have better production. When you talk about the food, Senator, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is being made for animal feed, we know that the products that are fed to the animals, we eventually consume them. Therefore, I find that senators are misreading the House, that GMOs are actually meant to poison human. That is not true. GMOs have been meant to optimize production to achieve they are engineered to achieve better products. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I do not want to be informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Osotsi Godfrey Atieno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know this house is a house of representative of the people. And whatever decision we make here, resolution we make, must resonate with the interests of the people we represent. But if we come here and make interests, pursue interests of our political inclination, just for the purpose of that, then I think we are driving Kenyans in the wrong direction. Mr. Speaker, you are aware that GMO was banned in Kenya in 2012, and there was a reason. Let us reflect on the reasons that led to the ban of GMO in Kenya. It was because of a scientific report called Serraline study that associated cancer in the rat, among the rats to GMO. Mr. Speaker, we also have issues to do with antibiotic resistance, allergic reactions, and many, many other effects on people's health. And here we are trying to push Kenyans to eat GMO foods. I think this is the highest act of irresponsibility on the part of the government to try and even push through GMO without public participation. We have had organizations which stakeholders in this particular sector complaining that they were not consulted by the government. And the government has decided to ignore them and move on. And then we are told the next minute that maize is being imported into this country. Even before the Gazette notice is published, we are told there are several vessels on the seas ready to deliver maize in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this is corruption. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator, your time is up. Senator Kibwana Ali Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, seriously, I think the use of hunger crisis does not justify a decision to allow GMO in this country. This is actually unsettling and a clear violation, Mr. Speaker, of the principles of human rights. GMOs were banned in 2012, and I wonder where they have again been resuscitated again from. And for this reason, Mr. Speaker, we are concerned with our safety when it comes to GMOs, and especially our own consumption with this generic modified food. It's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. Kenyans deserve wholly nutritious food that are grown organically. My question is, why the government should tell us why the GMOs, when many other countries fear or feed their people without them, why is Kenya feeding their people with GMOs? That's a question that I want to ask, Mr. Speaker. I know I don't have time, but then we are not really happy with our safety concerns, and we are not being considerate and the general public regarding the GMOs. Asante, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry.
Honorable members, let's rise. It's now 41 minutes past 6 p.m. Time to adjourn the House. This House adjourns to tomorrow, the 23rd of November, 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this live broadcast of the Senate afternoon sitting on this day of the 15th of November, the year 2022. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in partnership with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. On the order of business for the members of the Senate this afternoon, there are 4 motions that are lined up for consideration. This afternoon, there is a motion on the approval of senators to serve in select committees, a motion that has been moved by the Senate Majority Leader that seeks the Senate to approve a list of senators nominated by the Senate Business Committee to serve in standing committees of the Senate. These include Honorable Senator Esther Anyien Oke-Nyuri for the Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations. There is also the Health Committee, Senator Esther Anyien Oke-Nyuri, also her name is there. The third senator nominated by the Senate Business Committee to serve in the standing committees is Honorable Senator Danson Mungatana in the Trade, Industrialization and Tourism. That is part of the motion that members will be considering this afternoon. The Senate will also be seeking the House to approve the nomination by the Senate Business Committee of Senator Esther Anyien Oke-Nyuri to serve in the Committee on Powers and Privileges. Again, the House will be approving the nomination by the Senate Business Committee of Senator James Kamau Murango to serve in County Public Investments and Special Funds Committee. Also lined up for consideration is a motion by the co-chairperson Joint Select Committee on the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly, commonly referred to as IALA. This motion is on the adoption of the report of the Joint Select Committee on the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly, where the House will adopt the report of the Joint Select Committee on election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly on its consideration of the nomination papers of the duly nominated candidates for election as members of the East African Legislative Assembly that was laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 15th November this year. Also lined up for consideration is a motion by Senate Majority Leader on the approval for the Senate to hold a morning sitting on Thursday of 17th of November the year 2022. This is pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 34-4B that the Senate resolves to hold a sitting on Thursday, 17th November 2022, commencing at 9:30 a.m. and terminating not later than 2:15 p.m. In this case, for purposes of the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly and any other business as may be approved by the Senate Business Committee. So that is one of the motions that members will this afternoon be seeking to consider and approve this sitting of Thursday, 17th of November 2022 to commence from 9:30 a.m. and terminate not later than 2:15 p.m. for purposes of the election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly and any other business as may be approved by the Senate Business Committee. Also lined up for consideration is a motion on the effects of upstream activities on the river Tana to the residents of Tana Delta. This one is by Tana River Senator Honorable Danson Mungatana. Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has stepped into the chambers. He will be presiding over this afternoon sitting. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good afternoon.
Let's pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings
us, your servants, whom we have been pleased to call to leadership positions in the Republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum, clerk? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the bell.
Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Kingi, has just directed that the quorum bell be rung for 10 minutes. Of course, this is to give way to the members of the Senate who are not yet in the chambers to be able to get into the chambers to enable the House achieve its requisite numbers to kick off the business of the day. So the quorum bell will be rung for 10 minutes. But of course, if the House achieves its quorum before 10 minutes lapses, then the Speaker will call the House to order and of course direct the business of the day to begin. So members are expected to get into the chambers, of course, to enable the House achieve the requisite quorum. The Senator for Tana River, Honorable Danson Mungatana, will be moving a motion on the effects of upstream activities on the River Tana to the residents of Tana Delta. And in this motion, the Senate will be seeking to urge the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation, in conjunction with the Water Resources Authority, WRA, to conduct stakeholder participation before undertaking any major upstream activity, including construction of dams before the release of water during rainy season, and of course limiting flow of water to River Tana during the dry season. The Senate House will also be urging the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, in conjunction with the Water Resources Authority, to develop a policy in line with the Nile Treaty of 1959 to guarantee average annual flow of the River Tana. And finally, they will be seeking the ministry and the authority to come up with mitigation measures to the perennial floods and water scarcity to the residents of Tana Delta. This is what this particular motion will be seeking to get from the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, and of course in partnership with the Water Resources Authority. It is a motion that is moved by Honorable Senator Danson Mungatana. There are a number of reasons he has given to this particular motion, but currently is a quorum bell that is underway. The requisite number of members in the House to enable the House begin its business or start its business has not been achieved yet, but as you can see, members are slowly trickling into the chambers. Currently, the number is not yet achieved, and once the number has been achieved, then the Sergeant at Arms will, of course, alert the Speaker and call the House to order for the business of the day to start. On the reasons that the mover of the motion on the effects of upstream activities on the River Tana to the residents of Tana Delta is that water is a fundamental resource to life, livelihood, food security, and sustainable development, and an economic good which is